What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unusual Suspects. I'm your host, Vincent Oshana, and I'm excited. I'm really, really pumped for today's show. We have a great guest, but first, let me introduce some of our regular unusuals. We have Rob Gargiulo, his pants are on today, finally.
Hello.
We have Brandon's in the house, and we have Shane. Our guest today, I'm really excited. She's our newest unusual, and I mean that in the best way possible. She's a former United States Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Public Affairs. She has been a political commentator and lobbyist. She's an author. She's a writer. She was on Fox News contributor from 96 to 2017 and a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. We're definitely going to talk about that. She's a force to be reckoned with, ladies and gentlemen, Monica Crowley. Monica, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of all of you guys, so thank you so much for having me.
Even Rob?
Even Rob, and it's good to see him in his pants.
Finally, Monica, this guy's just always butt naked and it bothers people, especially the young ones. Okay.
Well, he got word that a chick was coming today, so
he
I
put
guess
him on, yeah.
he
They
dressed up.
Yeah, if it was a guy, he'd be completely nude.
That's right.
But, hey guys, just a really quick rundown of the stories today before we get into speaking with Monica and all the things that we're going to get into. We're definitely going to talk about this Georgia girl that was murdered and the person that killed her doesn't belong in the country. Isn't that weird? We're going to talk about Shane Epstein's favorite book, which is going to be interesting. China and Russia's have some banking stuff going on. Brandon's going to talk to us about that. And then Rob, just octopus murders. I have no idea what that means. I didn't even know that they could walk on land or people going into the ocean to kill them. But that being said, Monica, actually, no, we're gonna go into our guys. So, Minnect, I have to say this. We spoke about Minnect a little bit earlier. I'm telling you guys right now, this app is blowing up. They've had more downloads. We've had more downloads in the past 2 months than I think any other app that's in this type of genre. If you want to connect with people, if you want to speak with, like, ask a question, if you want to talk to, because Monica's going to be on by the time that this airs, anything. You want to talk to an expert about life, religion, business, investing, entrepreneurship, whatever you want. There's a category in there for it. It's amazing. I'm on there. She'll be on there later on. I highly, highly recommend it. I just put my brother on it. He's a dog trainer, like sniffing bombs, and he's that guy. So I highly recommend it. The Minnect app, if you haven't downloaded it, go for it. Anyway, that being said, so Monica, by the way, Council of Foreign Relations, let's just start right there. Is that like, are you in the woods, there's like an owl, they're burning things? What is the...
No, you're confusing that with the Bohemian Grove.
Gotcha. Aren't they all kind of...
Bohemian Grove, at least it used to be only guys. It used to be only men. I don't know if they're letting in women now. But no, Bohemian Grove has some weird stuff going on. And I remember when I was working with President Nixon, during the last years of his life, they used to invite him to speak like once a year, and he didn't accept every invitation, but often he would go and give the speech, and then he'd come back and he'd be like, Monica, because he was a member, right? And he didn't tell me everything that went down, but he would say, I like to go in, do my speech, and then get out
of there. He did say something in his speech where he was just like, it was the gayest thing I've ever seen.
It's the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine.
He's quoting. So Council of Foreign Relations,
so it's based in New York, but there's also a Washington bureau. And, I joined years ago. I was one of the first members, like under 30. Like they've got a program for people under 30 who have a passion for American foreign policy and national security issues, which is what my background is anyway. So I used to go to the meetings and then applied for the under 30, and then once I passed 30, then I became a regular member. So they bring in heads of state and all kinds of speakers, and I do that. But I always joke, there's the council where I'm a member, and then there's the council.
Oh, okay. So it's
running the world.
Gotcha. So
and I'm not a part of that.
So because I'm still, by the way, I still don't trust you. Like the Masons, because Masons, I know that you can get to like the 33 level or whatever. Those are just the people that we see, but the real Masons are a whole different situation. But listen, I still trust you with my life. But anyway, so Monica, you've been in politics for a while. You've worked under Donald Trump. You've seen what they've been doing to him for the past, 7 years, I would say, almost. From the fake Russian collusion hoax to what they're doing now with, trying to get him broke and everything in that in between. You've said in the past, I think it was on Hannity, I would 6 years ago, that the left not only wants to delegitimize Donald Trump, they want to personally destroy him, destroy his presidency, and see him in prison. You must have been a psychic, because everything that you said that you foresaw came to true. And you also said this: Donald Trump is an alien organism that has been injected into the body politic of the American people to reform it, but they don't like it. We know. So what are your thoughts with what's going on, Monica, the present state? And then I want to ask you another thing about what they have planned for him. So
yes, and thank you for the question, and thank you for raising both of those quotes, but in particular, that quote that I said on Hannity in March of 2017, I now play it to the open of every single one of my podcasts. I just use, there are 2 quotes from that particular show because it was so long ago and I was so prescient on that. And I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just saying I saw what was coming down the pike at the time when very few other people did. So think back to June of 2015. He comes down the escalator at Trump Tower and he makes his announcement that he's going to seek the presidency. Everybody starts laughing, right? Everybody's cracking up. This is a vanity run. He's only doing it because, he's trying to up his brand for The Apprentice or whatever. And I remember literally a couple of days after he announced, I was on with Bill O'Reilly, and then I think the next morning with Don Imus. So 2 tough sons of guns, right? I mean, these guys don't brook any kind of bullshit. And I was on with them, and they were all having a hearty laugh about Trump. And I said, stop laughing. Do not underestimate him. He's going to pull the whole thing off. And it shut the 2 of them up, which is very tough to do.
Of course, both of them.
And they're both my friends and everything else, but, to shut them down because they saw in my face something serious. And they were like, what are you seeing that the rest of us are not seeing? And I just thought about it at the time, 8 years of Obama and Marxism marching through the United States. The country was different as a result of it. The Republican Party was different, and the base was different. The base was ready for a no BS disruptor, and that was Donald Trump. And I said, man, he's got a lane here, and he's the only one who can really exploit this lane, right? So if you fast forward through that whole year, what we didn't know was that the deep state started to pay closer attention to him because he was a disruptor, because he was not one of them, so therefore they could not control him or compromise him in any way. His whole life was out there. The divorces, the girlfriends, everything was out there. They knew they didn't have a line into him. And that's when their ears started to prick up, when he started gaining traction, and when Mrs. Clinton started to see that this guy could pose a real threat to her and her triumphant return to the White House. She's the one who came up with the Russia hoax.
She paid for it
So
all.
Mrs. Clinton is a deep state menace who belongs in prison for the rest of her life.
I agree.
She came up with the Russia hoax. All right, I'm laying all of this out to say that they set the table in 2015 and 2016 when they saw that he could actually be a real threat. They tried to take him down with the Russia hoax. When he first became president, he didn't understand these moving parts. Now he does, but he didn't, and totally understandable. Who would? He was never part of politics before. He had never done any of this before, right? So they tried to destroy him. They still are, of course, and they cannot believe he's not only still standing, but he's thriving. But the deep state lined up one massive attack against this man after another. The Russia hoax went on for years, crippled the man's presidency, right? Put the country into a massive, massive whirlwind of cost and national security threats and everything else. They do not care. They had their eyes focused on taking him down. They failed. When the Russia hoax failed, then they went to fake impeachments. And every day he was being assaulted with lies from the press.
Racist,
bigot, all this. They were
Yeah.
constantly trying to tear him down. So 2 fake impeachments, and then we come to 2020. And I'm setting the table here so we could talk about this year and what they might have planned. Because when you think about 2016 and what they tried to do to stop him, it was the Russia hoax, that he was some sort of Putin asset, all pack of lies. His presidency, they constantly attack him. Now you come to 2020 and they can't believe he's still standing. So what are they going to do? Think about it this way, guys.
Yeah.
Very few people have put all the pieces together. They unleashed an unprecedented virus on purpose.
Weird.
It was not an accidental lab leak. The timing, way too coincidental. Release a virus, shut down the global economy to stop the roaring Trump economy.
Yep.
They have Antifa and Black Lives Matter burn down the country.
Yep.
They rig the election, and then the cherry on top is January 6th, which was a Fedsurrection to frame Donald Trump.
Yep.
5 catastrophic things that they set up to stop one man, his movement, America First, and to get the Great Reset back on track because Donald Trump put a pause on it, stopped it.
Wow.
So when you put it all together like that and think about the lengths they went to, the deep state working with the Chinese Communist Party, working with the globalists like the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, they were all working together to stop one man. That's how powerful Donald Trump is. That's how much of a threat he is to their globalist agenda. He had to be stopped. So when you think about it that way, in retrospect, 4 years ago, it tempts the question here, what do they have planned for this year?
I was just going to ask you,
because
what's
all
on
the lawfare coming at Trump, that is one piece of the puzzle, and they were hoping that that lawfare would in fact stop him, that they could get a conviction, they would put the man in prison before the election. It's not working. So what do they have planned for this year? Because
they gotta shift
you know they've got something else in their back pocket.
The scary thing is that they say win at all costs, you know, like they follow the philosophy of the prince or the 48 laws of power. So that's the most unsettling part of it, is that they'll do whatever it takes, no matter how sinister it is.
Well, they'll justify that what they're doing to defeat him actually isn't wrong, even though it is.
For the greater good.
Exactly. It's the greater good to remove him. So let's just say you unleash a virus to do that. Yes, I know it killed millions of people, but look what it did. We got Donald Trump out of office, and we got everybody's favorite grandpa, Joe Biden, in.
And if you ask liberals, do you actually think Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million? They'll say no. Like, I asked a relative of mine, do you actually believe that? And they said, no, I don't.
Go drive by it.
So you know that it's a lie, that the case is being built on, but you're still pursuing it.
It boggles my mind, because I'm like, what if Trump, this, wild, crazy, this apprentice, you're fired orange guy, if he didn't choose to do it and he didn't go, where would we be right now? Because Hillary.
Well, that was Agenda 21. That's why it was originally called Agenda 21. Now it's called Agenda 2030, because Trump threw it off course.
Oh my God! So
right?
that's why I said this the other day to Adam on the podcast, on PBD podcast. I'm like, God chose that guy, and he goes, "You really think God?" I go, "Yes, I do, because God chooses everything." So back to my question, Monica. If you had to guess, what do you think the deep state's plan is to either disrupt, stop, or just suspend the whole election? Because, I mean, that's the goal. He cannot win. It's almost like with JFK. It's like they're like, this guy cannot stay in power, or else we're not going to get the war that we want. So they had to kill him.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to be?
And I don't have an answer, because I'm not privy to the deep state's plottings here. I wish I were, but I'm not. All I know is it's going to be epic, because you're exactly right. They cannot allow this man to be reelected, right? They were caught flat-footed in 2016. They were caught totally by surprise. They didn't take him seriously. They sort of started the Russia hoax kind of thing. They never in a million years thought that this populist movement would take off the way it did. And then this real estate guy, this blue-collar billionaire from New York, could actually win the presidency and beat Mrs. Clinton. Are you kidding me? This icon of feminism, which is all a pile of horse shit, we know. She's a deep state menace. So they never expected it. And after 2016, they vowed never again. So this is why you saw those 5 catastrophic things that they threw on top of us and the world in 2020 to stop Donald Trump. And so this year, I don't have an answer for you, Vinny. I don't know, but we can speculate, because now we know what they're capable of doing. They could give a shit about whether you live or die.
Yep.
In many ways, your government is actively trying to kill you.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So We know this. And look, my very first job out of college was working with another former president, Richard Nixon.
Yep.
The last years of his life. I was not born when he was elected president, but I did work with him in the last years. We talked about Watergate. And now there's all of this research being done about Watergate and Nixon. That was a deep state maneuver to remove Richard Nixon from power.
Yep.
And I'm not excusing all the bad decisions Nixon made, but he was also getting bad information. So you get bad input, you're going to get bad output, right? So you mentioned JFK, removed by the deep state. Richard Nixon, removed by the deep state. They went after Ronald Reagan. With Iran-Contra, it didn't succeed, but it weakened him, right?
He got shot.
And somebody shot him.
Patterns, right? And so that's where you realize that the actual power in America doesn't reside with us as it should be, right? With the people, it resides with the deep state. It's not in the White House. It's not on Capitol Hill. It's not at the U.S. Supreme Court. The real power in this country is with these shadowy, unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats and operatives that move from agency to agency throughout the security state, law enforcement, so the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the DOJ. That's where the real power is in this country, and that is a terrifying concept. And so I almost feel like they give us the vote to placate us.
Of course.
And keep us down, and, oh, you know, you think you have a voice in your government. Good boy, good girl, you know? Meanwhile, they're out there picking presidents and destroying the ones who happen to get through.
Yeah, and you just saying that, and it sucks to say that. I know, you know, you want to believe that your vote counts and all this stuff, but we've gotten to the point, me and Brandon talk about this all the time, there's no left, there's no right. It's a uniparty, and you see it, one side, the Democrats get away with murder. The Republicans sit there and yell and, hey, you know, bring Fauci in, Judiciary Committee after Judiciary Committee. What actually happens? When is the last time one of those hearings produced someone to go to prison? Like really think about it. Yeah. Like Fauci, like you said, Fauci belongs in prison, and dude, for the rest of his life, the guy deserves to die in prison. That's why he has Secret Service protection for the rest of his life, because he knows, we know what the hell he did. And I think it's the disbelief, Monica, of the average American citizen when you say that they're trying to kill us and they don't care about our lives. Think about it. Everywhere you go, there's something all day you're trying to eat the food that doesn't kill you. The water trying to kill you. The vaccine. Every single thing that's happening. These people are trying to kill us. Even, Rob, you know this guy, who was that prince or king of somewhere, I think he was a prince of England. He said, I forgot the actual quote, he goes, when I die, I would like to be reincarnated as a virus to come back and help with the overpopulation of the world. This is one of the main guys of England said that. So it's not a secret. It's not fake. That's their plan all along. And I just hope to God, it's crazy that Trump is literally the only person that's in there. He's a thorn in their side, and this year is going to be scary. I actually want to ask.
That's why I pray for his personal protection.
I pray for
personal safety.
I literally pray for him, because anybody that's doing what they're doing for us, because say what you want, money, and okay, everybody wants to be successful, everybody wants money, but what this guy's doing, we spoke about before we started. He got in and was like, oh, wow. And people are like, well, he appointed Christopher Wray. He appointed this person. He had to. He doesn't know who the hell all these Brennan and all these Mike Pompeo, they're all in that deep state. They're like, well, he appointed Christopher Wray. I'm like, who you have to appoint somebody. Who is he going to pick? His friend? Like his construction friend from New York? No. You have to use these people. And I want to ask you one question before I get to my story. When it comes to so Biden, as you're seeing, they've pretty much given up on him. I think they stopped giving him his drugs. They just push him in front of the camera.
They want him to go now.
They want him to go right now.
They've turned.
They've turned, which I didn't think it was going to be that bad, because, bro, he seems like he's trying to hang on.
Yeah, but you knew it. Once they pushed him out for that press conference for him to defend his cognitive ability after the Her report came out. Yeah. When have you ever seen him go out without handlers to go do a press conference? Very minimal. And then a damaging report comes out. Next thing you know, he's out speaking without anybody. There's no Jean-Pierre. There's nobody there to back him up. It's just, hey, go. It's like watching them feed him to the wolves.
And meanwhile, during that press conference where he tried to prove he wasn't senile, he mixed up the president's visit to Mexico.
You can't write that to anybody. Brandon, what are you going to say?
It's extremely noticeable when the wind of the deep state's like blowing at your back versus against you. You know, and when when they're on your side, they cover everything up, they help you out, they make excuses for you. But when they're against you, they'll like turn molehills into mountains and make up rumors and like false accusations about you. So, you know, like when Biden was on their side, they were trying to defend him about stuff, all of his gaffes and whatnot. So, but now they're highlighting it the same way they did with Trump. So,
big time,
very noticeable thing.
So, and if you had to just really fast, Monica, if you had to guess, like I give you $1,000, you have to bet the money, Vegas odds. Who is the left gonna have run?
Okay.
Who are they gonna choose to run for president, and who's gonna be the vice president?
So this is a critical question.
Very critical.
And I'm something of an expert on this question, so thank you for asking.
You're very welcome.
First of all, you are right. The left's power brokers want him gone. And the way you know that is because Barack and Michelle Obama, who are running the country now, this is Obama 3.0.
Yep.
This is not Biden's administration. Their folks have come out now, like David Axelrod. They're out there saying Joe Biden is not up to this job. The age is a real issue. Mrs. Clinton also, this is how you know the deep state is now getting ready to bounce Biden, because Mrs. Clinton is a mouthpiece for the deep state, and she's saying his age is a concern. So I do believe that they've already made the decision. He's gone.
Yep.
You're exactly right. He and Kamala Harris are holding on to the White House curtains. They're going to have to be carried out feet first. But the deep state is capable of anything. So when they want somebody gone, they will do what it takes to remove them from power. So I do believe, and I was the very first one to say this 2 years ago on the main stage at CPAC.
Okay.
When I was asked who was going to be the Democrat nominee in 24, I said Michelle Obama.
Wow, so you're up there with Roger Stone was one of those too.
Well, you know, my friend Joel Gilbert did a film 2 years ago called Michelle Obama 2024. So I saw it right before I did CPAC, and a light bulb went off, and I said, holy shit, they're going to run her. Here's why and pray to God that we're wrong. And I don't know how likely this is, right? We could be way off on this, and they could actually run Biden. I don't know. But the most devoted and dedicated voting bloc for the Democrats is black women. They know that they cannot run Kamala Harris. She's the most unpopular vice president in American history. So if they bounce him and they bounce her, and again, I don't know the mechanics of how they would do any of this, but if they bounce the two of them, black women are going to be really pissed. So the only one who really squares that circle for the Democrats is Michelle. And if you think about it, they've got the entire Obama machine, so all they have to do is throw the switch. I mean, they're running it now. She's got Barack. She's got the team. They raise, $1 billion overnight.
Of course.
She's the candidate. And here's how they would do it, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's too late in the game, right? They're communists, so communists can do whatever they want, right? They don't play by the rules. They get to the DNC, which is late this year, and I think they made it late on purpose.
Well, in Chicago.
They put it in Chicago, Obama hometown, and it's like late August. So here's how it could play out if they do this. They wait for the convention. They somehow remove Biden and Kamala.
25th Amendment, something where he's crazy. He walks on his underwear. Well, he's gone. Get him out. He's crazy.
Alex Jones is saying that he's hearing that Biden is walking naked around the West Wing because he doesn't know what planet he's on, right?
Oh my God.
So they can wait to the convention. If the nominee is either dies or is incapacitated, the Democrat rules are that that person is gone. The delegates all go home. The delegates play no role. And the 200-member Democrat National Committee, the DNC, chooses the nominee.
Also, don't they have
So
superdelegates?
they could easily get her. Yes, and so the superdelegates
The
go away.
superdelegate
It
system
all
means
becomes,
that the Democrat primary isn't really a thing because the delegates vote, but then they have this whole other class of unelected delegates, or I guess elected from the top, who just get to choose. They usually just reiterate what the delegates chose, but in an event like this, they already have a mechanism, like you said, the mechanics of it. They already have a mechanism in the Democratic Party to just swoop in and place someone in there without any popular.
Is that what happened in 2016 with Bernie Sanders?
That's roughly what happened. The superdelegates basically gathered around Hillary, but they had enough of the popular vote so that they could make it look like it was democratically decided, but it was basically a threat the whole time that if Bernie was really winning, they could, you know.
And here's the kicker.
Away.
So if they wait to do this until their convention in late August, then they can position her as the reluctant candidate who really didn't want to do it.
Exactly.
But her country and her
Here we go.
party and her country need her,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
And then she only has to run like 9 or 10 weeks.
It's
so
over.
She's pristine.
Oh.
She hasn't been bloodied up in any kind of primary process. She's iconic. She's a woman of color, so she's immune to criticism.
Yep.
You can't attack her. You're being called a racist. And here's the big tell, guys. If this were a Republican, like an iconic Republican, where there are whispers that this person might run for president, right? The imperial media would be all over that person.
Of course they would.
They'd be camped out on their front lawn.
Yep.
They'd have satellite trucks in front of their house chasing it. Are you running? Are you running?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, they're leaving her alone.
And nothing.
Yeah.
Crickets with Michelle.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know how likely this is. I could be way off
I don't
on
think you're
this. And I hope to God I'm wrong.
I pray to God, because we're the same crap that's been happening for this past 3.5 years. It's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. I have to move on to the next story. It's scary if it is. And by the way, the fact that you broke down those 5 things that happened, it's insane when you think about all of it to stop one person. But all right, so moving on to the next story. ICE confirms. I don't know if you guys heard about this. That Georgia student. So let me read it again. ICE confirms the Georgia student murder suspect entered U.S. illegally, was previously arrested, this is going to shock you, in New York City. Jose Antonio Ibarra, the suspect of the murder of 22-year-old Georgia nursing student Laken Riley, illegally entered the U.S. By the way, you guys are going to hear that word a lot. Illegal. It's a weird word. Just get used to it. In 2022, as confirmed by immigration, by ICE, he was previously arrested in New York City on charges of injuring a child, mind you, doesn't belong in the country, injured a child, and a motor vehicle license violation. ICE usually requests local law enforcement to detain suspects like Ibarra, but he was released before a detainer could be issued due to New York City's sanctuary city policies. However, after Ibarra's arrest in connection to Riley's murder, ICE finally lodged the detainer. Laken Riley, she was a nursing student. She was found dead near a lake on the University of Georgia campus. Ibarra faces multiple charges, including malice, murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, keeps going, hindering a 911 call, and concealing another's death. By the way, his brother is a gem, too. His brother was just another illegal, arrested on a bunch of fraud charges. But I love it. I'm almost done, because this is driving me nuts. Ibarra, he's a Venezuelan national, illegally, there's that word again, in the U.S. after he was released in September from 2022. You guys want to know why? Lack of detention space. They let this piece of garbage go because they're like, hey, we already have enough in here. We've got to let him go. And just really fast, I want to list a few more names of young people that have been murdered by illegals over the past 4 months. Let me just, it might be less, but it's less than 6 months. Kyla Hamilton, she's 20 years old. She's an autistic girl. She was raped, then murdered by an illegal El Salvadorian MS-13 gang member, illegally in the country. Lisbeth Medina, 16 years old, from Texas. She was stabbed to death and had her skull crushed by an illegal immigrant. Doesn't belong in the country. Alex Wise, a 10-year-old boy from Texas that was killed in a hit and run by an illegal. There's that word again. Rogelio Ortiz, he was deported 5 times. And the last, Maria Gonzalez, 11 years old. Notice how all these people getting murdered and raped are young girls. 11-year-old, she was sexually assaulted and strangled while her father was at work by an illegal immigrant. His name is Juan Carlos Garcia Rodriguez. You guys remember? I know you do. All of you are going to remember. Remember when Trump was crucified for saying they're not sending their best? This is exactly who he's talking about. And this is what I come down to, and I'm going to give the floor. I'll go to Monica and I'll go around. Who takes responsibility for these young people getting murdered? Okay, and I get you can't stop anybody. Even if you legally let in immigrants, some of them are going to make mistakes and stuff like that. But even the Border Patrol Union said in a statement a couple days ago, Joe Biden, which I still don't believe it's him, it's the people like you said, the deep state and all the people that are making when they say they, these are the they. Joe Biden is directly responsible for the deaths of innocent Americans in the hands of illegal aliens. He is the president. I think him, along with the director of Homeland Security, Alejandro the Rat, I call him Mayorkas, they're responsible because when you purposely are letting these people in for votes and child trafficking and all the drugs and whatever the hell they're trying to do, and a murder of American children happens, they have to be held accountable. And for instance, if somebody breaks into your house, we're all roommates. Somebody breaks into our house and kills one of us. It's sad, it's messed up. Hopefully they find the killer and that happens. But if you're paying for security, like we're literally paying for full-time security with our tax dollars, basically as America, and your head of security and the CEO is like, just leave the door wide open, and somebody comes in and kills us, who is at fault? Mm-hmm. It's the CEO and the security. So I just want to know, like, when you hear all this stuff happening, Monica, when you see what they're doing with the wide open border, you're from New, you live in Manhattan, you see what's happening. Is there any end in sight? What's the goal? What's happening? And who should be held accountable and what should happen to them?
So yesterday on my podcast, I actually ran that clip of Trump, and it was literally his announcement in June of 2015.
Yeah.
It was one of the first public comments he made as a candidate for president. And he said that when you have lax border enforcement, like we did under Obama, when Trump was first running, he talked about they're not sending their best, they're sending rapists and murderers, and I guess there are some good people, remember that?
Yeah.
And they jumped all over him. They crucified him. And I made the point on my podcast yesterday about this to sort of tie it all together. When we talk about the globalist agenda.
Yes.
Yes, of course, Biden/Obama are keeping both borders wide open on purpose. If they wanted to change, they would have over the last 3 years. So this is all deliberate. There's been no course correction. And of course, they want to flood the country with illegals to get them on a path to citizenship and then get them voting to lock in a permanent Democrat voting majority. Mm-hmm. So you never again get a Republican president or a Republican Congress or anything. And a one-party state is communism. That's what Marxism is,
what they
right?
want.
So that's part of it, of course. But there's another element to this, guys, which is the globalist agenda, which is to get the world to a one-world government with them sitting on top of it, of course. But in order to get there, you have to erase the world's borders. Mm-hmm. So the wide open border is, yes, about flooding the zone, but it's also about erasing national sovereignty. This is why you see this not just in the U.S., but across the West, with all of these third world illegal aliens invading the West, because it's part of a much bigger, darker agenda. That's what this is really all about. This is why you have not seen a course correction. And this is why, we look at the 4 years of Trump as a huge success, right? Booming economy, enforced border, and world peace.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know what people expect or want from an American president, but he delivered all three. They look at that 4 years as lost time. And so this is why Obama and Michelle, who's totally political, and Biden and his whole team have been moving with all deliberate speed over the last 3 years to flood the country. You're exactly right. These young women are being killed by people who should not be in this country to begin with. Mm-hmm. And if you go back, 1995, I played Bill Clinton's clip on my podcast yesterday, too. He was all about enforcing the border.
Big time.
Deportations, rule of law, getting control of illegal
what happened
immigration.
to that attitude?
Because the Democrats are now a completely Marxist revolutionary party.
100%.
That's why.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that really sticks out to me about this is that things might seem overblown sometimes that you're just hearing about it on the news or whatever, but when you start to hear about it from like the people you actually know in your life, it's really a serious thing. So I can't tell you how many of my friends and family, just scattered all throughout the country, have said that they've either had like a crime-related incident happen near them or robberies, whatever, and it turns out to be from illegal immigrants. So it's not even an exaggeration to say that, everybody in the country is being touched and affected by criminals running around, because most of South America, a lot of countries in Africa are sending their criminals here. So, what better way to destabilize the most powerful country in the world than to, empty your jails and do it?
And here's my thing. What do you tell the parent of an 11-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 28? I don't give a shit about what do you tell the parent of, imagine that phone call. While you were at work, dude, this pisses me off so much. While you were at work, your 11-year-old or 16-year-old was raped and then murdered in your house, and you lose your mind, you're sad, you're emotional, and then you start asking the questions. Who was he? This is he. Where is he from? Oh, he wasn't supposed to be in the country from 2022 because Biden's policy with Homeland Security with Mayorkas let them in. Where does the responsibility fall, and who's held accountable, Brandon?
Well, Monica's absolutely right that it's the globalists that are accountable because, Biden, it's probably some degree of blackmail. Mayorkas probably some degree of blackmail. They've done terrible things that they'd be, thrown in jail for if they ever got exposed. So that's what they're being threatened with, and that's why they're just helpless to stop any of this stuff. So, that's like the.
But you know what? People who say Biden is incompetent or what's the plan. Guys, this is the plan.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. The plan is to destroy the United States of America. So it drives me crazy, including when I hear people on our side talking about he doesn't know what he's doing. Mayorkas is not doing his job. Mayorkas is doing his job.
He doesn't have to answer anything.
He's doing a great job at destroying the country.
Oh, yeah. By the way, resume-wise for Biden and Mayorkas, what do you mean? They're praising him. That guy has literally, the past 3 years has been, we've had more people come in the country illegally than we've had births in America. It's blatant. It's obviously, it's an invasion. The same when Jim Acosta, I hope, if God willing, he ever sees this, he's a shill piece of shit for the left, that CNN loser when all those caravans were coming. And he's like, no, it's not an invasion. He's like, wait, they're just migrants. They're coming over. No, you're an idiot. He's a piece of shit that deserves to be held accountable because they're doing all this and we are where we are right now. There's no turning back. All right, Monica, we're not stupid. The number is going to be from 20 to 22 million, maybe more when this 4 years is done. The damage has been done. It's over. Okay, they're here.
Remember during the Trump years when AOC went down to the border and she was all in white and fake crying?
Yeah. By the fence.
Yeah. Fake crying and all of that. And by the way, the family separation policy was an Obama policy.
Oh, isn't that weird?
Right, but she wasn't crying back then, and she's not crying now or whatever. Well, now there are no controls, but it is it's all theater. Yeah. And when you understand that, all of the West leaders are not elected, they're installed, including Joe Biden, but also Justin Trudeau in Canada, Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister, Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, Macron, the French President. They're all installed by the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, Macron literally works for Rothschild Bank.
So they're all doing the same agenda. And that's why when you get a populist like a Milei in Argentina, or the Hungarian Prime Minister, Orban, when you get a populist like Trump, they stick out. The new president of El Salvador, Bukele.
Oh, I love that guy, Bukele.
Phenomenal.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. There is a shift happening. And I'll tell you, on the illegal immigration issue, guys, if there's any silver lining out of this, and these are horrors that we're talking about here, but any silver lining, it is that it is waking up traditional Democrat constituencies like black voters and Latino voters. They are pissed. They are screaming at their mayors in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle. They are pissed. Washington, D.C., they're screaming at them because their communities are getting absolutely decimated.
Yeah, look
and
what happened
all
to
of the
Eric
resources are going to the illegals.
Yeah, Eric Adams was going to house migrants in luxury housing in New York City until the residents in New York City went, we could use that housing for people.
Yeah. What are
and
you
then
doing?
they reversed their stance.
And by the way, it's funny that you bring up AOC, who's just the most brilliant bartender turned congresswoman in the history of bartenders turning to congresswoman. She was the day Laken Riley was killed. She was murdered in Georgia. She goes on MSNBC, one of my favorite networks, and she has the nerve to say that the illegal crisis is a hoax. This is the day this girl was murdered. Kelly, can you please play this clip?
Idea that Republicans, in order to win an election, say we need to hermetically seal the border when they know that is economic self-sabotage to the U.S. economy. And they are saying, let's do it anyway. And to compensate for the negative effects, we're going to allow and throw people's kids into factories.
Oh, shut up.
That is what they are doing in rolling back child labor laws while being as xenophobic and anti-immigrant as they are. And while ginning up this false narrative about this being a crisis. And by the way, also preventing and blocking any legislation that would provide not just a path to citizenship, but a path to work papers, a path to allowing people who want to work to be paired with American businesses who need people to work. And I mean, there is not only no moral calculation, there is no economic calculation, there is no logical calculation, there is only a political calculation.
My head hurts listening to it.
And that political calculation
Kelly, you can stop it. Guys, like, and here's
great
the thing.
Acting, though.
Yeah, no, great acting. Like, it's, okay, she's obviously not bright at all.
Or she's genius.
Or she's a genius because, well, think about it. To say something like that, she is listening to her handler saying, listen, and by the way, she's from New York.
Yeah.
She doesn't give two shits, and it pisses me off, guys. It really bothers me that all these bad things that happen to these young, poor girls in Texas and Georgia, you know, these border states and stuff like that, it happens to these poor families that have no say, that probably are anti-illegal immigration. I mean, everybody should be. And people like this who spew this freaking nonsense and this false narrative of it's not a crisis, and nothing happens to her, nothing happens to her family. And I'm telling you right now, I don't wish anything negative on anybody, but it would be refreshing that instead of this poor Georgia family who right now is probably losing their minds, that this type of stuff hits home to people like her, that AOC, like something happens to you and your family so you can stop going on TV talking that nonsense bullshit. If she had a kid and her kid was murdered, or her kid was crossing the street and got run over by some illegal, it's when it starts hitting home, which I don't think happens enough, that's when these people start changing their tunes. And until something like that happens, she's going to keep parading on MSNBC, and whoever the hell the other host was, just sitting there, Monica, just soaking in that nonsense and not saying anything. I'm gonna change to the next subject because it really, really pisses me off. The next topic is gonna be Shane. When a week goes by and we don't hear about Epstein, it drives us crazy because the fact that people just stop talking about this guy in the list. Everybody cares about everybody else. And Trump, meanwhile, not one person from the Epstein's list has even been talked to or brought to light. Right. He had a favorite book. Can you please let us know what this book was?
So, to continue on the topic of blackmailing and how that plays a role in the maintaining of the Great Reset. Before we started the cameras, Monica was explaining how in D.C., people get in with all these hopes and dreams, and then the men in suits approach them and they say, here's what's really going on. We have all this dirt on you. Here's dossiers explaining everything you've ever done that's bad, and you're going to follow our orders. So the king of all blackmail operations appears to have been Jeffrey Epstein. But we have to remember that the official narrative says that he was just a lone wolf, weird guy who committed suicide because I guess he was sad that he went to jail. No one wanted him dead. He didn't have dirt on anyone else. It was just, you know, this weird thing that went on an island, just rich people being crazy, right? So there was an article in Mother Jones, of all places, a left-wing magazine, but journalists for them took the scans of Epstein's contact book, his little black book, they call it, of names of famous people he either knew or wanted to meet. There's a picture of the article there. By the way, I'm going to have a full write-up on this story on VT.com, so check that out tonight. So he called up everyone he could find in Epstein's book. A lot of them didn't even know him. A lot of them just said, like, oh, I don't want to talk. But he got someone to talk who was an actress from the 80s that met Epstein when he was pretty young and watched his rise all the way up through the echelons of power. And she says, she looked at her diary entries while talking to him on the phone, and she says that one day she asked him, Jeffrey, how come you have all these girls around you all the time? What's with the girls? And he said, if you want to understand my life, you have to read a book. This book, it's called, and there's a picture of it on screen. The Man from O-R-G-Y, Orgy. It's a organization that he works for. He doesn't reveal what the O-R-G-Y stands for until the end, and it stands for the Organization for the Rational Guidance of Youth.
What?
He is a sex researcher who is traveling the Middle East, investigating and documenting for academic purposes. He says, with a juicy grant from one of those American foundations, I was playing Kinsey, studying sex, and he gets abducted by the U.S. government, and they bring him into a plot for him to become a double agent and work for the Soviets, so that he can track down a woman who's being sexually trafficked through the harems of Asia, who has the secrets of how to build an atom bomb to prevent the Chinese from getting the atom bomb.
Damn.
So it's a spy thriller, James Bond kind of knockoff, but it's full of the most grotesque sexual scenes you can imagine. There's child brothels. I actually purchased it online.
By the way, you're on the list. You know you're on a different list. You're on a different list right now.
It's so messed up. There's child brothels. There's abductions, trafficking, rapes, gang rapes, and Epstein thought this was a funny book, and he told her explicitly, this is the book that convinced him he wanted to become wealthy.
What the hell?
And so when you read this book and you learn that it's literally a spy who is a pervert, and he's doing all this stuff to get blackmail on figuring out how to, help the U.S. Create a unipolar world. He goes on all these long rants about how it's great to have no borders and how cosmopolitanism and liberalism is the way to go. It's like a super liberal book too. When you realize that this was Epstein's favorite novel, and that this is what convinced him that this is what inspired him to become wealthy and powerful, you have to ask, how could it possibly be how could the official narrative possibly be that he was not a spy and that this was not a blackmail ring? Also, this ex-friend of his said that she was almost certain he was a bounty hunter for corporations and possibly governments. Those are her words.
Wow.
So
that's almost like his guide to being Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, everything that you mentioned is 100% what like the narrative is out there. The fact that he had all these cameras set up, and what an operation though. Imagine that, telling all these people, having all these relationships, come to this island, you're safe, nobody's there, and there were literally cameras. Apparently he had a control room the size of this wall that had cameras in every single...
She confirmed that. She said that's true. She said she saw it.
Wow.
She saw the guy who's running it. And as I said to Rob previously, I think the big question with the whole Epstein saga is not who is implicated, because we pretty much know that already. And also, those people were just collateral damage to a bigger plot. The real question is who was paying Epstein, who was ordering him to do this, and who is he working for, and to what end? And when you really look into, when you try to find who wrote this book, it's a pseudonym for a guy who there's barely anything about him, and he just wrote tons of books about 20th century history. He was a publisher at a bunch of different publishing houses in New York. He worked for Warner Brothers for a minute, and then strangely he was also a teacher and wrote basically like sex ed books for kids. He wrote a book on pornography explaining it to children for a high school audience. Ted Mark, but his real name's Theodore Mark Gottfried is his real name, but I could barely find anything about him. So it's like, who wrote this book, and how did Epstein even find this book?
Did you guys?
I ordered this on Abe Books. It's like where you get free
not
cheap
Amazon.
books. No, not Amazon.
They would not have
it's
that
a used book. Like, it's out of print. So it's just very shady.
I'm intrigued. I actually want to read.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it around the office.
What do you think about this whole Epstein and?
I know. So I guess Epstein didn't want to be James Bond. Like most guys want to be James Bond with the gorgeous ladies and the Aston Martin and the tux. He wanted to be this character, right? Apparently. I don't know about you guys, but and maybe this is just my naivete over many years, but like, because crimes against children are so particularly heinous and horrifying, I always assumed that they were really rare, right? Like one sicko, in the depths of Chicago with having kids tied up in the basement. And then you'd hear about it and they'd make a movie about it. And it was like Silence of the Lambs kind of thing. But now, after Epstein and all this other stuff that we're hearing, crimes against children, especially like raping children, child trafficking, it's a lot more prevalent than certainly I thought. And I don't know about you guys, but it's everywhere. And then when you add on like a character like Epstein, and again, we don't know who he was working for, how he was making his money, how he was getting paid. But man, you start to hear some of these theories that he was working for the CIA, Mossad, or maybe both, and playing them off of each other, or whatever, or that he was gun running, that he was dabbling in weapons, selling weapons around the world. I don't know any of this, but it does open a door to what we started our conversation with, which is what these globalist and deep state shadowy characters that are completely unaccountable, they're faceless, we have no idea who they are.
Yep.
They're doing this kind of stuff.
100%.
I mean, we know about Epstein, but how many thousands of other characters like this are doing exactly this, and we have no idea who they are.
Yep. And instead of an island, it's somebody's house with trap doors and shit. Because, mind you, I think it was just during Biden's administration with Alejandro Mayorkas behind the wheel. I think 85,000 children. I'm going to say that number again so people picture 85,000 children in a stadium.
Football stadium.
What is it?
Yeah, football stadium.
A football stadium. 85,000, and they're gone. They're missing. Monica, it's not like there's a dead body here. We found the part, her clothing. No. They're gone, and when it comes to these elites, that's why besides the border, I mentioned it earlier, they want all these people to destroy the country. They want all these votes. They want all the fentanyl and drugs to kill us. These kids, it's a constant surplus supply of kids that go missing to feed into whatever they want. Sexual things, sex trafficking, it's big billion-dollar business. So when people try to play this whole naive game of, like, you nailed it, we don't know. It's not that. Now it's more prevalent than ever. Because explain to me where they are. Show me where just show me where 10,000 are. And I'll start to listen to your story, and I'm going to go to you after.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
I was going to say, to your point that it's a big business, think about how Epstein went from being a high school teacher at an all-girls school. Weird. He went from being a high school teacher to having a 10-floor apartment on the Upper East Side, a private island, and multiple residences throughout the country. West Palm Beach. I mean, and everyone who came into contact with him, like the scientists at Harvard, said he wasn't particularly bright. So how did he become so rich?
Actually, I want to take issue with that because I know people in New York City who knew him, who invested with him, who gave him tons of money. He was actually brilliant.
Really?
Brilliant. Like, he had a mind for numbers, for investing, for tax law. That's why, like, big guys like Leon Black, billionaires, would give him like big chunks of money and say, go invest it, get it around the tax laws legally, etc. No, he was, I don't know about other stuff, but on this kind of stuff, financial matters, investing, he was absolutely brilliant.
But do you think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had incriminating evidence on these people, like, and told them, like, hey, listen, who was the gentleman they said, Leon Black?
Leon Black.
Leon Black. Hey, Leon, guess what? Remember that party that you were at? Remember that party? By the way, that's you with a 15-year-old. Invest. And I don't put it past you. You might have been brilliant.
That could very well be, but the returns were there.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe he extorted them to invest
maybe
with
he had on the other end
information.
He knew where to put the money.
Huge returns on these people's investments. So that was real.
Yeah, 100%.
It wasn't like Bernie Madoff, who was faking the returns and that sort of thing.
That's come back. But dude, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this is things like when The Sound of Freedom came out, why was it that all the establishment places shut it down, wouldn't play it? And then, like, we talked about, like, if they want to amplify something, it's no mystery. You hear about it in the news all the time, but when they want to squash something, you don't hear about it all. And when people actually try to talk about it, they suppress it. So, like, why is it that it's something that's objectively bad and evil, but it's, like, objectively also being suppressed by the establishment outlets?
Actively.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, because I remember that. It's like, wait a minute, they were bashing it. What? There were some reporters.
Yeah, they're calling, like, a far-right extremist, was it QAnon type of thing?
Far-right extremist. And let's not pretend. We live in a society now where even the AI, the Gemini thing, they're saying that pedophilia, it's not a really bad. The person's
they're
born.
slow walking
That's
that.
their sexual preference, and it's minor attracted person. If that doesn't prove to you that evil is literally entrenched in everything that's happening in our society, foreign and here, everywhere. It's just the sexualization of these children, and they're trying to groom them, and how many videos are you going to see where parents are fighting the school board to say, hey, listen, this is pornography. This kid we're talking about children. And the other side is like, well, it's art. What do you mean? This person in the book was raped, and there's dildos, and there's there's sodomy, but
it's like the rules for radicals thing. It's like they leached onto the liberal, like the far side of the Liberal Party to like slow walk all this stuff in because they know that they could like push the trans stuff and all the pedophile stuff if they do it the right way because of the way that far left side is wired.
Big time.
So it's not the majority of them at all, but it's like a very like slow, deceptive thing they're doing over the course of the last 10 years.
Ugh, I hope.
It's cultural Marxism.
Yeah. Big time.
Okay, so the point of Marxism, well, there are many points, but when it comes to the family, they have to destroy the nuclear family, separate children from their parents, make them distrust the parents so that they won't confide in them, bust it up and then indoctrinate the kids. So whether it's drag shows for kindergarten kids, the pornography, and by the way, when the parents show up to these, town meetings or the school board meetings, and they're trying to actually read the pornography,
they won't let them.
So it's good enough for your kids to read in the school library, but not, it's too crazy to read in public. It is, but understand it's all part of this Marxist revolution that's going on. And it is a spiritual war. Evil is real.
Yep, you damn right it is. All right, we're going to go to the next story. Brandon, and this is right up your alley because Treasury Department, you should know about this. So China and Russia, there's something going on with the banks. You said something crazy before we walked in here.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have your perspective on this. So what happened, I heard the other day that after the latest batch of sanctions, after the Navalny death, there was like 500 additional sanctions put against Russia. And so China's three out of their top 4 banks, which are three of the 5 biggest banks in the world, all of them bigger than JP Morgan and Chase, they officially cut off Russia from doing business with them. So I'm wondering, what is it about these sanctions that were unique about, compared to the last sanctions? Because Russia was supposed to be friends with China. They're supposed to be in a good situation, supposedly. A lot of people are saying that Russia's still in a position of strength. But I'm also hearing they're having to ship physical shipments of gold around the world to make payments. So do you have an opinion on which side of that's true?
Well, the economic sanctions have actually backfired. And President Trump was using economic sanctions a lot because he wanted to draw back troops from around the world. So he didn't want to assign troops to hotspots. He would use economic weapons like sanctions. But one of the downsides of it, and we're seeing this now, is that it's been driving the BRICS nations, as we call them. So it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and there are some others that are now joining, Saudi Arabia. They're coming together because they want to explore a separate currency, and it's called de-dollarization. So they want the world to move away from the dominance of the US dollar and the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So a good thing is when Russia and China are separate, and every American president has tried desperately and worked really hard to keep Russia and China away from each other, because when they unite, it's very bad for us.
Yeah.
You get a monolith of an enemy there, and that's very dangerous for us. So that actually is quite good news, that at least economically, the Bank of China and these other big Chinese financial institutions are moving away from the Russians. But keep in mind, they are still working together in a lot of other ways. Russia has remained rich through all of these sanctions, Trump and now Biden sanctions, because they're putting their oil on the world market, right? So oil is fungible, money is fungible. Bad guys will always find a way to get around these things. The Chinese and the Russians are working together in a lot of other ways as well, and they will find ways around this. And it's a very, very dangerous moment, especially since they are now joining forces, like I said, to get the world to abandon the US dollar as the reserve currency. That happens, COVID looks like a walk in the park. The Great Recession, the Great Depression looks like a walk in the park. We will be plunged into a global depression if that were to happen. Oh, God. And we would lose our superpower status. But that's what our enemies want. The Chinese, the Russians, they all want that. So they're trying to get us there. So you've got that movement to a separate currency. And guys, I got to tell you, the second the Saudis get on board with a different currency,
it's over.
And trade oil in a different currency, it's over. Yeah. It's over for the U.S. economy. It's over for all of us. We are done. And the Saudis have already been on the record saying, yeah, we're interested in taking a look at that.
I read that.
So you pair that de-dollarization move with the movement towards a central bank digital currency.
Brandon's favorite.
I mean, your economic freedom is completely over, and now you're a serf. You're a real slave to the state.
No more free market.
Yeah, well, I'm honestly like 0% concerned as far as like a threat from another country replacing a dollar, because I don't think that country exists. But I am very much afraid of the central bank digital currency. Like, I think it would have to be that if there were to be a replacement for the dollar. But I can't imagine something replacing the dollar right now because of how it's systematically built in with the infrastructure and everything. You know, like, do you have an opinion on that? Like, how do you imagine another country being a suitable replacement? Because I can't.
No, not a single country, but if you have this consortium of other countries that are very strong, like China and Russia and India, they're all coming together to develop their own currency as a competing currency to the dollar.
Great.
And
so not a single one can do it, but if they all got together, you'd have a formidable challenge.
It's the gold-backed BRICS currency.
Yeah.
So are you concerned about that, or you think it's?
I'm so worried about it.
Really?
Because you have these two tracks. You've got the BRICS track, which is like our friend Steve Bannon calls the end of the dollar empire.
Oh, great.
Right? And so that's one track, and then you've got the CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which is the end of your economic freedom. And now you're a real slave to the state. So between those two tracks that are going like 1,000,000 miles an hour down each track, they're running parallel, but they're going to convene at one point to strip you of all of your freedom.
Oh,
I mean, you won't have any economic privacy. You'll have no economic freedom. And, you know, we're talking about China. China has the social credit score system.
Yeah.
And this is all part of that, too, where, you know, if you, say, overstep your monthly allotment for carbon output, say you drove to Miami.
Instead of Fort Lauderdale,
right, and it's registered as, Vinny went over his carbon footprint for the month. Now they will have the right to shut off your ability to access your own money. And because they want everybody to let your car, they can shut your car down. Oh. So you physically cannot move your car. They'll stop your ability to, say, buy airline tickets, for 6 months or whatever. I mean, it sounds dystopian and crazy, but...
I don't think it sounds like crazy because they're trying to do
in China right now.
That was part of the Inflation Reduction Act, that all new cars had to have a kill switch in them.
Right.
So it's not like this random maniac. I wish people read into bills and read like that. That's their goal, is to have everything digitized. So like you said, if they're like, hey, listen, you're only going to have 2 steaks this month. You can't buy with this car, your money, it won't let it buy that. Or like you said, shut your car off. Or if you get, apparently, I think in China, if you're linked with somebody and they don't pay a fine or a ticket, your shit gets shut off too. Yeah. They'll take money out of your account.
Association.
That's a very, very dangerous, slippery slope. And I think because isn't Trump anti CBDC?
Finally, yeah.
Totally.
He doesn't want
not on my watch. But the moment we left the Treasury Department on January 20th of 2021, and Janet Yellen and her team came in, they started a pilot program to examine central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So that program has been ongoing for 3 years now. And the UK has one as well. The Germans have a pilot program. So these globalists who have been installed throughout the West, they are examining this and they want us there. And the sister part of this is surveillance. So after 9/11, they did FISA under the guise of we have to be watching terrorists around the world, right? And here in America, so the FISA, the warrantless surveillance and wiretaps and all of that, what we now know is the deep state, the CIA, NSA, etc. They turned those fearsome weapons that were meant for America's worst enemies against us.
Yep.
They were spying on Trump, spying on January 6ers, spying on all of us probably,
Of
right?
course.
Through our phones. But all of the surveillance can be economic as well.
Yeah.
So if they get the central bank digital currency, your money will not be a tangible asset in your wallet like a $10 bill. It'll be a line of software in the Fed. So the Fed will be the only bank, and your money will be a line of software, and they'll be able to watch everything you spend it on. You spend $1 on a pack of gum, the government will know that and then be able to turn it off.
They're already trying to sell it to us and pitch it to us too. They're saying, oh, guys, we could control inflation this way. Like if oil gets too expensive, we could just limit how much oil can be bought in a certain time and it'll bring the price of it down. Or if we need to do stimulus quickly, we could give you stimulus quickly.
They'll make it like it's like everything.
Like it's so convenient.
Yeah, everything is guised under it's convenient. You don't want Just put your hand at Whole Foods.
Right.
Put your palm there, and it'll charge you. Bitch, I never signed up for that. You could just show up there and put your palm. And it's like, can you imagine everything is tracked? Your bubble gum is tracked. This is like,
meat,
Rob, you can't buy panties anymore. Like, Rob, they would follow every single thing that you do.
They hate people eating meat. This is something they keep talking about and how it's contributing to the greenhouse effects and everything. Yeah. I think that's probably the most interesting part of all this, because what money is ultimately about behaviors, because what you're consuming is what you're doing. And Larry Fink said that ESG is about enforcing behaviors. That was his term.
Yeah, I remember that.
Behaviors.
Yeah.
And if you really want to weaken your populace, forget about guns. If you don't let men have protein, if you don't let people build muscle, they're literally going to be the most servile human race that's ever been.
They want you getting your protein through bugs.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Like a cricket grinder. I'm like, no, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
I tell you, I have a bug phobia. I'd rather have a mouse in my apartment than a roach. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I would literally starve to death if bugs were my only option.
And that's what they want us to be eating. I'm watching a lot more of them on YouTube where they're trying to normalize it. Like, listen, they're not that bad.
It's the same amount of protein.
Yes, and guess what? You put a little salt, some spice. Some spice.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Close your eyes.
And it helps with climate change.
But sign me up. I'll eat a roach burger. Brandon, you were going to show another.
Yeah. So just last thing, I'm 1,000% agree with you that the CBDC is like the #1 threat to us and our freedom. But in the terms of the BRICS thing, I don't really think that's a serious threat, because at the end of the day, I think that people have to choose what currency they feel comfortable holding. Like in Turkey, for example, I think the majority of the citizens hold dollars instead of the Turkish lira, because the way that the price depreciates of it. So, this chart, the bottom blue, it shows that actually dollar holdings have went up since the sanctions happened in 2022. So that's all dollar holdings. The next one is a euro. Then the rest of them, you can't even see them because of how small it is. So that's international transactions in dollar, euro, #1, #2. But I think that's going to be more of a slow burn thing over the next 5 to 10 years, as far as them trying to get us to a CBDC. Because I know 93% of the country or the central banks in the world are trying to work on one right now, and that's 95% of global GDP. So that's definitely something I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of the people accepting it, though. So that's why way more people have to be fearful about this and be talking about it and me against it, I think.
And they have to be educated about what it is and what it would mean for their lives and their country.
Yeah.
They don't know. And I agree with you on the BRICS thing. This takes a longer period of time, and the U.S. dollar is still relatively strong, but we've got a $34 trillion national debt.
Well, it's interesting.
we're going to hit an economic wall here pretty soon.
It's coming.
And it's going to be so painful for the American people who have no idea what's coming.
Quick question. So this is actually I heard something really interesting last week from George Gammon. You ever heard that name before? So we were talking about the U.S. debt and how the rest of the world is dependent on U.S. debt because treasuries are necessary for when you do cash-related transactions in the international economy. So right now there's a treasury shortage, a collateral shortage, meaning that if we were to reduce our deficit spending, that shortage would be even greater, and that would hurt the world economy and potentially cause an international economic crisis. So, that's he brought up Triffin's paradox, where we have to simultaneously hurt ourselves to help the rest of the world because it's a debt-based monetary system.
I'm not so sure about that.
No?
I don't know.
Okay.
That sounds pretty wild. I mean,
it's a crazy concept.
Shit, just listening to it, I was like, oh shit, that can't be good.
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely a paradox.
But I do think, and you nailed it, Monica, it's people have to stop watching your favorite show 1,000 times in a row, get off of social media and read these things. Learn, because by the way, and we talk about this all the time, these evil globalist demons, they have to show you what they're doing. It's called karmic retribution. They're going to show you. They have to show you in your face what they're going to do. They put it out. The information's out there. Essentially,
they warned you.
We didn't come up with CBDC. It's out there. They're trying to get to it. If they could, they would do it in a heartbeat. If the government can take all of our guns, they would do it. These are all things that they wish and they want to do, and it's only a matter of time unless we're educated and we fight and we tell them no, because we have to, bro. Because I think Americans are too distracted. Especially, think about it. Look what's happening in Brazil. They don't like the way that the government's running. There's hundreds of thousands of them in the streets protesting their government, all right? That's hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Over here, I think we're so, This is on. TikTok is here. I'm watching this show. Football's on. Taylor Swift. Is she dating this guy? Travis Kelce. There's so much shit going on. People don't have the time. I'm saying we do because we're involved. Just to stop and think about it, because once it starts coming and it's in your face, if you don't deny it, if you don't say it's too late, and they're going to do it anyway. All right. Last story. Rob, and we appreciate the fact that you've had your pants on this whole time.
Thank you.
I think Monica, like, she's been looking away because she doesn't know. But so Rob, the Octopus murders, I literally have no idea what the hell they are. But talk to us.
Well, you're in luck because there's going to be, it drops today on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, American Conspiracy, The Octopus Murders. Season 1 premieres tonight. I guess it's out now because today's what, the 28th? Yeah, the 28th of February. What the documentary is about is the death of a journalist. His name, Danny Casolaro. He was a freelance writer. From all indications, the guy seemed to fail at a lot of things. And he ended up working for like a computer flyer mailing company. And he sold that to a company that purchased it. They hired him to continue to write for it, but he started spending his time because he wasn't fulfilled, right? He was bored.
Well, he's sending flyers to people.
And he went from owning the company to then working for the company, and he didn't have that same level of passion for it at that point anymore because he no longer had a stake in the game. So he started spending time researching these different topics, and he came across what he called the Octopus. And the Octopus was a story that he was working on. It centered on a sprawling collaboration involving an international cabal and primarily featured a number of stories that were familiar to journalists in the 80s. The Inslaw case, which was about a software manufacturer whose owner accused the Justice Department of stealing his product. The October surprise theory that during the Iran hostage crisis, Iran deliberately held back American hostages to help Ronald Reagan win the 1980 presidential election. It also focused on the collapse of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, and it involved the Iran-Contra scandal. So it's a big web that this guy was focused on. He was writing a book about it for years. And then he goes to interview somebody who is integral to this entire story. 1991, this guy goes to, Danny Casolaro goes to the Sheraton Hotel, room 517 in Martinsburg, West Virginia. He checks in, and he is there to interview this person that is the key figure to this entire story. He's going to break the octopus open, and he's going to expose this global cabal to the entire world. However, Danny Casolaro is found dead inside of I believe it's a bathtub. His wrists were slashed 10 to 12 times.
Jeez.
And not the type people say when you do this, you're supposed to go vertically.
Suicide.
Not horizontally.
Yeah.
Cut himself horizontally 12 times. Why this doesn't make sense. According to friends who were close to Danny, he was a very outgoing personality. He's not a guy that was depressed. He didn't seem like he was struggling with anything. He had a young son that he cared about immensely. Yes, he was a failure in certain businesses, but it seemed like he had found a passion in this book that he was working on. And then his family starts to speak out like, well, he was scared of blood. He wouldn't get his blood drawn for medical appointments. Why would he slash his wrists if he's afraid of blood? Inside of the hotel room, his notes, which he brought with him for the story, mysteriously vanish. They find a beer can inside of the hotel room, but there's no traces of alcohol in Danny's system. Notes missing. Told his family that in the weeks leading up to going to Martinsburg, he had received threatening phone calls in the middle of the night. It was keeping him up at night. It seems like he was just being tortured.
Yeah.
And this goes to other stories. In fact, here's the video. So if you would like to watch more about this story, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, I'm more interested in weird suicides.
That happen a lot.
They do, especially if you're, you know,
if you're going after anything called cabal or Or Hillary? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Clinton body count alone, 16 aircraft crashes, 20 suicides, 22 bodyguards died, 56 military or law enforcement people died, 8 journalists, 7 female lovers, 5 people who helped fundraise.
You're so unlucky.
This is the Clintons?
According to the internet, if you believe in the Clinton body count, these are the people, 23 witnesses, 5 medical staff, 11 staffers, all dead. But yes, there's the entire list. In fact, it's so big that you can't even actually zoom in. But yes, that's the breakdown of the actual Clinton body count.
Dude,
and it goes as far back as 87 all the way up until 2016. Well, no, it goes further, but I only screen grab.
Hey, but if you ask if you ask Anthony Weiner, everybody he's like,
who doesn't know people who died?
Yeah, he's like, they're 70 years old. You're gonna know a couple. I go 55
suicides.
I know one person that killed themselves, and they almost messed that up.
They're not dying of natural causes, exactly.
So it's very interesting. Here's the documentary. If you want to watch it, Kelly, if we could cue this up, we'll play the teaser clip. I'm very much looking forward to it. That's what I'm going to be doing tonight after this episode airs, of course.
Go ahead, Tom.
Mind him thinking they killed him.
The book that Danny was writing, he starts looking into these powerful people and realizes there's something much bigger going on.
These 8 men, they're no longer government officials, but their tentacles can reach into any part of government in almost any country. I've come to call this group the Octopus.
Ooh, I'm watching. Okay, listen.
So that's tonight on Netflix.
Sold.
American Conspiracy, the Octopus Murders. But I started reading about this, and then it started going down the rabbit hole of Reddit, where I started discovering other odd suicides. Let's go to Gary Webb. Although that's more about the death. Under Casolaro's body, paramedics found an empty Milwaukee beer can, 2 white plastic liner trash bags, and a single-edge razor blade. However, the guy had no booze in his system when he died. You would think if you were drinking and then you killed yourself, they'd find alcohol in your system, but I guess not. Let's go to Gary Webb.
That's him?
No, this is Gary Webb. This is another journalist who committed suicide. Gary Webb was an investigative reporter known for his Dark Alliance series, which appeared in the Mercury News back in the 90s. The series examined the origins of the crack cocaine trade in Los Angeles, and Gary claimed that members of the anti-communist Contra rebels in Nicaragua had played a major role in creating the trade, using cocaine profits to finance their fight against the government in Nicaragua. He also stated that the Contras may have acted with the knowledge and protection of the Central Intelligence Agency.
Wow.
So there's ties to the CIA bringing crack cocaine into urban communities in the 80s and 90s. Gary Webb writes articles about this, starts to expose it, and then on December 10th of 2004, Gary Webb found dead inside of his home with not 1 but 2 gunshot wounds to the head. So he shot himself and didn't do good enough to let me finish.
So basically, he wanted to expose everybody, do his duty for humanity, and then go to heaven. Or he wanted to move on to the next slide. That seems to be happening a lot.
According to the Sacramento County Coroner's Office, Gary Webb shot himself with a .38 revolver, which he placed next to his right ear. The first shot went through his face and exited at his left cheek. The coroner staff concluded that the second shot that he did hit an artery, which killed him.
Yeah. It's kind of, but I've never ever heard of somebody shooting themselves in the head twice. Kind of weird coincidence there. Have you?
Yeah, all the Clinton supposed
deaths are weird. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Well, they say that they do it to be blatantly not a suicide, but then call it a suicide.
It's almost
to send a message,
right?
To flex.
Dude, that's crazy though, because you look at it, you say it to any average human being. Listen, here's all that, and they go, "Oh yeah, they killed him. What do we do? What are you gonna do about it?" Absolutely nothing. Hillary Clinton laughs in your face, especially when they interrupt her speeches. They go, "You're a murderer." She laughs and just goes, next question.
You just brought up Hillary Clinton. Christopher Sine, a journalist who wrote the book Secret from the Tarmac. If you remember, he was the one that wrote about the secret meeting between Attorney General Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton. This is while they were investigating Hillary Clinton's email
server. And yeah.
Oh, that guy killed himself too.
Did he really?
Christopher Sine. No, I don't know how he died, so I didn't add him to this list, but yeah, the headline, reporter who broke story on Clinton Lynch tarmac story found dead of suicide.
Can you imagine?
It's so blatant.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is, though, can you imagine, Monica, working for them? Like some people, they're liberals, they're Democrats. They're like, oh my God, I'm working for Hillary. I'm with her. My bumper sticker's still on my car.
It's her turn.
But could you imagine that? Like somebody has to go up to him, like, hey, listen, you're working for her. Don't you ever do some stupid shit, or you will be one of these. And they just show them like, you will be one of these sad people all of a sudden that have to end their own lives. Like, it's
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Right?
The numbers, like 55, how much was it?
I mean, according to this, I can't even get 16, 20, 22, 56, 8, 7. I mean, more than one.
More than 5. Who's this guy, Rob?
Okay, so this is kind of why I'm going down this rabbit hole. So going through this, I came across Terrence Yeakey. You may not know the name because he's a relatively unknown person. He was a sergeant in the Oklahoma City Police Department. He was one of the first responders to the Alfred P. Murrah building after the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19th, 1995. In fact, he's a hero. Terrence ran into the building, saved at least the lives of 4 people. That was a horrific day in American history. A domestic terrorist blew up the Murrah building. But according to this guy, Terrence Yeakey, not all is what it appeared to be when it came to the Oklahoma City bombing. Terrence was injured while saving the lives of the 4 people from the ruins of the building, went to the hospital with a back injury the day of the bombing, where he called his ex-wife Tanya and said, Tanya, it's not what they're saying it is. They're not telling the truth. They're lying about what's going on down here. This is according to his ex-wife, who told that to CNN in 1998. Now, let's show this article, Kelly. If we could switch to the next slide real quick.
You mean CNN, the Clinton News Network?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
But they also, CNN has done their due diligence when it comes to reporting on the death of Terrence Yeakey. This article came out last year. Why did this cop turn up dead? A heroic police officer rescued at least 3 people after the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. A year later, he was found shot in the head. Now, according to reports, 385 days after the bombing, Terrence Yeakey killed himself. Now, in this article, they discuss what Terrence's life was like between the bombing on April 19th and his death on May 8th of 1996. In this, they say something happened to Yeakey in those hours while he was in the wreckage searching for bodies. He was badly shaken, and his worldview seemed to change. In time, he grew suspicious and afraid. He ran afoul of his supervisors. He went on secret missions, withholding his motives and plans from fellow officers. He seemed to be conducting his own investigation. This is from CNN. Then, 385 days after the bombing, Terrence Yeakey's body was found near some trees in a field off a country road. His wrists were cut, his neck was cut, he had been shot through the head. In fact, they found Terrence Yeakey's car. It was locked at the time, the windows were rolled up, but inside a deputy found a Bible, an empty gun holster, a razor blade, and a large amount of blood. Yeakey's body was eventually found half a mile away from the car. Jeez. So according to the medical examiner, Yeakey ended up slitting both of his wrists inside of his vehicle. Then he walked a half a mile into the middle of the wilderness, where then he slit his own throat and then shot himself in the head.
Yeah. And by the way, he had the decency, though, the know-how to lock his doors before he left, because you're going to die. You don't want them breaking into your car while you're dead.
All of this happened on the day that Terrence Yeakey was supposed to win the Medal of Valor from the Oklahoma City Police Department, an award that he reportedly did not want.
Wow.
So the guy doesn't want the award. He's doing his own investigation. There's always been these weird reports when it comes to the Oklahoma City bombing about a third suspect that was seen with Timothy McVeigh that was not Terry Nichols. There were reports throughout the day. If you go back and you look at the news footage of the Oklahoma City bombing, there's multiple reports of them finding bombs inside of the building and evacuating the scene because they keep thinking that they're finding bombs.
Yeah.
It's all very suspect to me. So the question that I wanted to pose to you guys is, do you believe any of these deaths? I know that you have very minimal knowledge. Maybe you've done your own investigative work, but based on what we've concluded here today, do you guys think these are suicides? Do you think there's more sinister acts or people involved?
Shane, what do you think?
I mean, I was just thinking about the pipe bombs on January 6th. And like really what's most disturbing of what you're talking about is how little concern they have about being caught. Like Brandon said, it's like a smoking gun. Like they almost want to send a message. If you really wanted to make it look like it was a suicide, I'm pretty sure you could do a bit better than that. And these are supposed to be the best people in intelligence in the world. Yeah, so the January 6th pipe bomb thing, I don't know if you guys have seen the footage, the most recent footage, but there's a guy who just shows up and sits on the bench and just takes a bag and just places it. And then he like looks around and then he gets up and walks away. And within a minute and a half, a bunch of police who weren't even there to begin with, they weren't patrolling, they weren't doing anything. They just showed up. Capitol Police all ran and then took pictures. But a guy walks through and they don't even tell him, hey, get out of here, there's a pipe bomb, which they would if it was a live, if they don't know, like, oh my God, we just saw a bomb, get it, what? They just take the pictures and then slowly pick it up and walk away. Like as if they knew it was going to be there, as if they knew what was going to happen. Like, so you have to wonder if we believe that these progressives in the deep state have this belief of the ends justify, or the means justify, the ends justify the means, where you are completely still a good person if you do maybe frame a teenager for a bombing, but if it's, for the greater good of the country, they can be brainwashed. They believe their own propaganda, essentially. I don't think it's that far-fetched to suggest that people who have been brainwashed working in these agencies for so long could carry out acts like this and not even feel bad about it because they are under the impression that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's like you said, like you have to go out of your way to make it look like that much like a murder. And then, like what I said before, if the powers that be like want to figure something out, they'll push it all day and talk about it nonstop. Like look at the 9/11 stuff. Look how long they were talking about it for. Look how long they talk about certain narratives, or like COVID. Look how long they spoke about that for. But with stuff like this, like wouldn't it be a newsworthy thing to say, like, hey, look at this freakish supposed suicide? Like, isn't that crazy? Like. And if you're just going for views or like genuine like reporting of like things that happen, like why bury something like that unless you're being told to?
Yeah. What do you think, Monica?
Yeah, I mean that Clinton list is something else.
Oh my God!
I mean that's like a rap sheet that goes 10 miles long. Look, and then they point fingers at us and say conspiracy theories,
course,
right?
Of course.
Yeah.
The difference between conspiracy and the facts about 6 months. Now it's about 3 months, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, people do commit suicide, and it is a plague upon our society, and these people are really suffering. But now knowing what we know about what the deep state is capable of as well, where life really is meaningless to these kinds of operatives, if you are a threat to their agenda, if you are a threat to them, you place yourself in a lot of danger. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about these specific cases, but it does raise a lot of questions. Speaking of, we haven't talked today about the Obama chef.
Oh yeah, the swimmer. By the way, and I don't know if you.
I mean, who knows what happened there? But these things are incredibly suspicious.
100%.
When they happen to and around people with great power.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, great point. And it's like all the questions surrounded because everybody, like when something like that happens, all right, the guys at Martha's Vineyard. The initial reports, the Obamas were not there. They weren't at the island. Then you wait a day. Mind you, now the story's already kind of, people like, here you guys go with your conspiracy theories. They were on the island. They were there.
They were home.
They were home. This guy, who I saw videos, can swim better than I can, and I'm a very good swimmer, drowns in this. It's just so many suspicious things that are adding up. And like when you ask the questions, the anger of you even asking, it's like, what? Whoa, because they jump to this. Oh, what do you mean they had them? They had him murdered. Or maybe because I heard something that he was writing like a book about them, and
I heard that too.
Maybe he was
like
hooking up with Barack Obama. Which, mind you, if he's gay, I can give two shits. But Larry Sinclair, this guy that was in Chicago that, signed an affidavit, passed the lie detector test, said, yeah, when he was a congressman in Chicago, a young congressman, I used to hook up with him, and I used to do drugs, and I'm shocked this guy, I mean, that would have been completely obvious if that guy was dead. But I mean, you've seen all that. It happens so much, but we're so desensitized. And by the way, they use the phrase conspiracy theory because it's just like, come on. They started that during the JFK assassination from the CIA, the biggest secret organization in the world. That's such a thing. If you want to stop people from talking, especially this day and age, you're a conspiracy theorist. If you guys haven't,
and what's weird about that term is that it's not like, oh, conspiracy theory. 9/11 was an inside job. We didn't land on the moon. The COVID vaccine will make you gay. Like, it's not even that.
Yeah.
The idea of a conspiracy is that people are working together behind the scenes to accomplish a common goal.
Everything's a conspiracy.
It's a value-neutral term, really. You're a theorist that there is a conspiracy going wrong.
There is.
It's not really, they use it as this pejorative, but it's not really a pejorative. It's just like, yeah, I'm theorizing that there could be a conspiracy. Doesn't the government do that all the time? About other nations, like, oh, there's a conspiracy to, commit this terrorist act. Like, they're conspiracy theorists when they do that then.
Yeah, I think the moment just human beings, it's not an American thing, it's a humanity thing. You stop being so naive that, and you said it earlier, that evil, listen to me, evil people do evil things, and to have power, which is one of the most important things to these people. Like, if you look at all...
It's the only thing.
It's the
only... I mean, money too, but power... And the ability to have control over other human beings.
Exactly.
That's what drives them.
Exactly that, because like you said, if you have the power, the money is... But to have control and to do what you want and to like change global landscapes and change the way humanity goes, they... love that. That's why when you look at Congress and you see all these decrepit, old, like, Chuck Schumer and
look
all
at what
these...
they were doing to Dianne Feinstein before she died. She was literally in a wheelchair and was incapacitated, and they're rolling her in.
By the way, that's a great example. I don't know if you remember, they were doing votes, and she's just crypt keeper, zombie, just at her thing, and they're like, because they're still voting on things. They're like pushing her, like, yeah. They're like, it's your turn to vote, Diane.
Prince Harry story to finish.
Oh yeah, so I would like to, if you don't mind, before we wrap up. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. That's why I love you, Shane. You before we sat down, we randomly brought up Meghan Markle, Prince Henry, and you said that you had some type of news with. I know Trump announced something about her with. I mean, I'm sorry, him. Where if he does win, he's going to revoke him and kick him out of the... My guilty pleasure is Prince Harry, Meghan Markle gossip, because I cannot stand either one of them. Okay? So she is a toxic nightmare, and he's the dope that married the toxic nightmare and stepped away from an incredibly blessed, unique life as a prince, working royal with a British royal family. For that. Yeah. Okay, that's what he left all that for. So at night, the way I decompress is I follow all of these Meghan Markle, Prince Harry gossip, like Twitter feed. I love it.
And I just like lie in bed and I love the gossip. So nobody quite knows how Prince Harry is in the United States. He's obviously here on some kind of visa, right? Okay. But nobody knows because the Biden administration sealed the records. So the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, sued based on a FOIA request to try to get the documentation. What kind of visa is he on? Is it a working visa? What is it, right? And the Biden administration stonewalled it, so it's now in court this week.
Are you serious?
The case is in court.
Just to find out how he's just randomly here.
Let's see his documentation. How is he here legally in the United States, right? What kind of visa? All right.
So he's an illegal alien right now?
So Heritage sued the Biden administration to get the paperwork and the documents. And it went to trial, it went to court this week. So President Trump was asked about, this is like the greatest thing, because Trump loved Queen Elizabeth II, Harry's grandmother, who passed away last year. Yeah. Loved Queen Elizabeth because his mother was obsessed with the British royal family and loved Queen Elizabeth. And President Trump has talked about when he was a little boy, he watched in 1953, watched on their family's black and white TV with his mother, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Oh, wow. So he has a special place in his heart for Queen Elizabeth II. So he's really pissed that Prince Harry has betrayed the Queen. Of course. By airing the dirty laundry and leaving the British royal family and writing books and the Netflix special and like just airing it all. So Trump is pissed. So he was asked about it and he's like, well, to me, betraying the Queen is a real crime, right? Like you just don't do it. She was such a great lady. And then he said, if it were up to me, Harry would be on his own.
Oh, wow.
So the Biden administration is clearly protecting Prince Harry and allowing him to live here under God knows what. So this is like an implicit threat that if Donald Trump becomes president, maybe he could revoke Prince Harry or review the visa status.
He's going to deport him.
And then have to bounce Prince Harry out of the country.
That'd be so great to be watching Fox News and you just see, like, from Jacumba, California, migrants, and you just see a ginger walking through. And you're like, I know it.
Yeah. Well, that's hilarious. Trump sends him back and he just shows up at the border.
Sombrero.
It's like, hey, you look familiar. And he's like, ¿qué? Yo no hablo español. Yeah, you're freaking Prince.
You just know that if Donald Trump bounces Prince Harry out of the country, Meghan Markle is not going with him.
Oh, hell no.
Meghan Markle is going to stay in Hollywood trying to revive her career.
They hate her in England, don't they?
Hate her. Yeah, they hate her in England. They hate her in Hollywood. Where's she going to go?
Yeah, she does.
Not my problem.
Well, is it weird, though? I have yet to see her live on a camera. So, like, are they protecting her? I rarely see her out anywhere. I don't see any videos, anything.
Oh, the weirdest one, we probably can't pull it up because it's too quick, but there's a weird video of her and Harry where they look like robots. Has anybody ever seen that video?
No.
Where they're just waving to the crowd and they look at Kelly.
Like Prince Harry and
Meghan Markle robots. I don't know if they're video claiming to show Meghan Markle clone. It's not a clone.
Yeah, like what?
No, damn it, Chinese can't let us in the TikTok.
God.
No, that's it. There it is.
Is that real?
Look at that.
Wait, no, that's not. Those are.
Is that AI?
No, they're wearing costumes. That's not them.
That's not them.
Yeah.
Oh,
No?
that's
No,
Rob.
I don't
That can't
think
be.
What is
Rob, is that a
Someone
robot?
explain what that is.
It could be
Because
AI.
behind it looks. Oh, she's not moving. Okay. All right. I got tricked.
Rob, you
Fake got me.
Rob,
It's like a Disney
you
World thing.
conspiracy theory,
Sorry.
son of a. No,
That's what I get.
But anyway, guys, I had a great time, Monica. I really, really appreciate it, and this is one of those ones where, like Kelly said, 2-minute warning. I'm like, wait, we're done. It went very fast, but I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having us here. Could you please let everybody know what's going on with you, where they can find you, your podcast? Let us know.
Yes, and thank you so much, guys, for having me. I'm a huge fan of this show and PDB podcast, and hopefully I'll be a guest on there
I hope so,
sometime soon. But I'm a huge fan of you guys, so thank you so much for having me. I had a ball. So my podcast is the Monica Crowley Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. So Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, the entire evil empire of podcasts. Please go check it out there. And on social media, on Instagram, I'm at Monica Crowley _. And on Twitter and True Social, I am at Monica Crowley.
Oh, you're the best. Robert, Brandon, Shane, Kelly, everybody in the back, Jorge, guys, Jeremy, I love you guys to death. Guys, take care of each other, love each other, and guess what? At the end of the day, we're going to win. They're going to lose. It's us against them, and we got this. God bless you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Peace and love.